Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. As you all know, topic of this webinar today is Salesforce automation with ERP integration. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes to start this webinar, manufacturing industry. I'm Kriti Kapri. Just in 2 minutes, joined YASH a year ago, and I'm regional director. I'll be your host today. If you have not heard about YASH, we have been around for almost 27 years. We are a global company. Headquarters is in East Moline, Illinois, and we have about 40 development centers around the globe. Around 8,500 employees work for us. And I'm very excited to introduce our panel today. Since this is about Ravi the time, Dhote. So let's Ravi get started. Vice President and Business Unit Head for Salesforce. Ravi brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in Salesforce implementation. I would like Ravi to introduce himself. Ravi, over to you.
Hey, hello everyone. Good morning, good evening. Thank you for joining us today. This is Ravi Dhote. I'm the Global Director for Salesforce Practice. In my role, I manage the end-to-end delivery and pre-sales to sales process related to service line, which is focused on Salesforce business at YASH. I personally come from significant experience working with the big top system integrators. So happy to talk to you today. And in today's session, we have picked up a topic which is of definitely an interest for all the major and mid-sized enterprises, because it's an integration which makes you all successful. So happy to take the conversation forward and looking forward for the discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for introducing yourself. We also have Chiranjeev Nag. Chiranjeev is our lead at YASH Technology for the Salesforce practice. I would like Chiranjeev, please introduce yourself. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kriti. Hi, good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm Chiranjeev Nag, part of the Salesforce practice pre-sales and solutions team here in YASH Technologies. And I have experience in sales, service experience cloud, CPQ, field service, and manufacturing cloud, along with integration. So really looking forward to share our insights and learnings from Salesforce and ERP system integration in today's webinar. Thank you. Over to you, Kriti.
Thank you, Chiranjeev. So before we go deep dive into the webinar, I would like just you to take you through some prerequisites here we have been doing on. Our experts will share their insights and expertise on streamlining sales processes and increasing productivity and driving customer delight. In this hyper-competitive marketplace, having the latest and greatest information about sales quotes, contracts, sales orders, product shipments, and other critical data is essential to stay ahead of the competition. However, without a proper integration between Salesforce and ERP systems, your sales team may fall short of client expectations, and it could happen in multiple deal-breaking ways. So how can we enable seamless connectedness and maximize operational efficiencies in the manufacturing industry? That's the question we are trying to address today. Ravi and Chiranjeev are experts in this area, and they'll share their experiences and real-life case studies on how we can achieve this. So the agenda for today's webinar, as you see on a screen, is first we'll go into understanding the complex technology landscape of the manufacturing industry and complexities of the data integration. Then we'll go into how can we achieve more from data integration? How do we make the integration happen? Some best practices, which will be followed by our success stories on the integration side. We'll also get to know about our homegrown tool, that is ERP Connector, and we'll give you some little bit of a sneak on that tool too. Just to start, before we actually start the session, I would like to let everybody know, chats are open. Please ask your question if you're going through any journey right now. These are the experts. They can help you in any possible question you may have. If we cannot answer your questions today, we'll take that questions offline and we'll get back to you. Secondly, but there is some exciting news, which Ravi is going to share you. We are very smart to keep that for the end. So please stick around with us till the end. You might get some nice offers today from Ravi. So to start this session, I'll hand it over to Ravi, and Ravi will talk about complexities of data integration in the manufacturing industry. Ravi, over to you.
Sure. Hey, thank you, Kriti. Hello, everyone, back again. So as Kriti has kind of explained the context of what we are talking today, so I think if you are a serious implementation phase of your enterprise today or in your past, you already know what integration means, correct? So integration is a pretty complex job. And if you are seeing the era where we came from, where it was extensively on-site focus integrations, these kind of projects used to take like years to happen. I personally come from a ERP and mainframe models where integration projects would be like never ending. So from that era to where we are today, while things are becoming better, the complexities still remain, and primarily because all of our business has been evolving. So nobody remains static with one set of business process, and to respond to that business process, we end up doing more and more, and that creates the complexity. So as we all know, right? So for the purpose of today, we just thought let's talk about the core areas or where the top complexities reside today. And integration is all about data. We all know we want to get data from one place to other. So the biggest thing here is how do we handle these complexities, correct? So when it comes to data consistency, which is the top factor I consider, because we are doing integration only to bring data, make data consistent, which means whether you are on a sales side, service, your back offices, you want data to flow seamlessly. And if you don't have that kind of consistency, you get into erroneous transactions, data duplication problems, correct? A lot of information will be missing, and then the business starts reacting in a negative way, because if you can't get the real-time information, your decisions will be delayed or you will make wrong decisions. So I feel this is an important aspect to be considered in terms of complexity, and that is a result of so many things happening simultaneously in enterprises, and that inconsistency impacts your decision making. Coming to the next point is manual processes. No matter what we do with whatever automation we do, there are always going to be manual process, because we are not still in that full AI world where everything is automatic. So bigger enterprises even have larger problems because of their departmental divisional processes. Then there's a central process, so merging processes from department to corporate. So a lot of those things are happening by business divisions. So there is going to be time consuming, because there are approvals to data submissions from one department to other. So that is creating a lot of manual actions, and there are a lot of data, I would say, snapshots from which moves from time to time from one area to other. So that is another reason why you are seeing complexity, because the sales guy will not know what the service is facing today, because there is no integration. They don't know that a crisis is happening with the customer right now. And if without knowing that, the sales guy may end up doing a cross sale, which is the wrong time to do, right? We all know that. But if you have a right automated process, the timing of decisions will be done based on how the system is responding, right? Coming to now another aspects, visibility, right? If a sales guy, the example I gave, or a marketing guy does not know how the product is performing in terms of sales, it would be foolish for him to keep marketing the same product which has not been working, or which is actually having problems in your service phase, right? There will be a car process, the car is having some recall, and you may be still marketing the same car. Sounds really logical, right? So visibility across the enterprise is very important, and that's where platforms like Salesforce, which is what I represent, which is a customer 360 platform, comes into play. The idea is this integration is not for the sake of connecting to system, but creating a real 360-degree enterprise, right? Which means there's enough visibility. It doesn't mean everything is visible to everybody, but you have your role-based organization where you have to make whatever the role demands, that visibility is given, so that they are not dependent on other groups to keep sharing the data on demand, but it is more of a real-time access is possible. So their decisions become more interesting. And to conclude on the last point here, why would we say we will miss opportunity? Because if you are not pitching your product at the right time, at right place, because you would not have that intelligence, it's a lost opportunity. Because if a market is hard, the pricing is kind of moving forward, and you are not in a position to offer something to the customer just because you did not know that that is the best time to offer that particular product. If you are not able to offer at that time because you lack that intelligence on how market is responding, or there's a product shortage or whatever factors which are contributing to that sale, once the opportunity is gone, no matter what you do after a month, because then you will not be able to make the same sale which you could have done in the past, right? Just basic representation here is integration is not a technical problem, because many times people think, oh, I have to do some integration and it's like two systems being integrated. No, it is actually a business problem, and it is going to help you run your business faster. But yes, and good thing is technologies like Salesforce have made it easy because it's all on cloud now. You are not going to get into a very messy on-premise implementation, which used to take a long time. And with the acquisition of products like MuleSoft, Salesforce has brought the integration more seamless with those connectors, and which my colleague Chiranjeev will talk about. But overall, please consider this problems as okay too, because we have a solution now. And I'm sure with the kind of things we have been doing with our customers, you also have opportunity to execute the similar projects. Thank you, Kirti. You can take it back.
Thank you so much, Ravi. I feel coming from the manufacturing side and being on the sales, I truly understand these challenges. Limited visibility, it hampers the sales productivity for sure. So thank you so much for connecting the dots for me. Actually, from a sales side, I totally understand. For the next part, I'll request Chiranjeev to share his thoughts and take us through how can we achieve seamless integration? What are the use cases, and how do we make this integration happen? I know this will go a little into technical, so we might need Chiranjeev to spend more time on it. So Chiranjeev, over to you. And while Chiranjeev starts sharing his slides, I'll reiterate, please feel free to ask any questions you have. There are a few people might have joined later. I would say that if you are going through this journey right now, this is the right time to ask questions. If we cannot answer today, we can take the questions offline. But this is an opportunity to, ask the questions. Thank you so much. Over to you, Chiranjeev.
Yes, thanks, Preeti. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ravi, for talking about the complexities and challenges with integration in the manufacturing industry. So in order to answer the question that Kriti just raised, that how do we achieve more with integration? So I would like to start with the use case first. So we will keep this use case as a reference going forward into the other slides. So this is a simple use case that we have picked up from one of our success stories only. So it starts with a sales rep. So now as a sales rep, I have received an email wherein a customer has requested for a new quote. So I enter all the opportunity details, the basic details about the customers, and I add the products that the customer has requested into that particular opportunity. But then what? I see that the pricing data is not available within Salesforce. I have to go and fetch the pricing data from an external system like ERP system. So I will fetch the pricing data, and just imagine that there can be data error as well when I'm entering this pricing data within Salesforce. So apart from consuming time, there would be error as well during entering this data. And what if there are 40 to 50 different products? So how do I do that? So that is definitely going to take a lot of time. So now after entering the price details, I'll go ahead and I'll create a quote. I'll send that quote to my manager for approval. The manager approves that particular quote. Then I'll send that particular quote to the customer for acceptance. And once the customer is happy with the quote that we have given, we'll go ahead and we will send that particular quote to the ERP system so that the production team can start creating orders with it. So over here also we see that when the quote has been confirmed by the customer, again, I'll have to go and enter details in the ERP systems manually. The quote details have to be entered manually, again, which will take a lot of time. So these are the pain points that Ravi also talked about, a lot of manual process happening, errors getting in, and since so much of time is being consumed in order to create simple opportunity and quotes, so we are missing out on revenues as well. We are missing out on opportunities. So keeping this particular use case in mind, let us understand that how will we achieve more with seamless integration. So the first point is for the sales rep only, the use case that we just saw. So the first point is accuracy of transactions. So now with integration, all the pricing data from the ERP system will come and sit within Salesforce. So the moment I add products, automatically the pricing data will be fetched. It will be populated. I don't have to enter details manually. So with this, I'm maintaining the sanctity of data. So the pricing data never goes wrong. So this is the first benefit. There would be an accuracy of transactions. So now the second benefit is increase in sales process efficiency. So we saw that as a sales rep, I will have to get data from ERP system, from the ERP application. I'll have to enter that manually in Salesforce. So this entire process takes a lot of time. So this particular code can be generated within minutes if the pricing data is populated. But if it is not being populated, I have to do it manually. It takes a lot of time. So the code process takes time. Then closing that particular opportunity takes time. But now with integration, when we automate this entire system, this entire process of closing an opportunity, which could take days, will be brought down to minutes. And this is how the overall efficiency of the salesperson increases, the productivity increases. And with that, we'll be able to win more number of opportunity, close more number of opportunity within the time duration as compared to what we were doing before this automation had happened. So this is from a sales rep point of view. What do we achieve? And how do we achieve more? So now talking about the other users. So there are other users also who will be accessing Salesforce. So like the production team, planning team, operations team. So how does this particular integration benefit them? What do they achieve? So now apart from codes, product, pricing data, we can also bring order related information into the Salesforce system. So now by having order related information, we can go ahead and we can do different kind of analysis and come up with reports. So for example, we can come up with forecasting reports. And apart from that, we can view data with relation to inventory. So let's say the sales rep is placing order in the CRM system, but as soon as the order is placed, since the integration has already happened, so the planning team, the production planning team can see that which inventory is really going down so that they can avoid such inventory stockouts. And apart from that, by building forecasting reports, the production planning team will get an idea that, okay, over the next 12 months, which all products have to be manufactured and what is the level at which it has to be manufactured. So with this, the overall inventory management becomes very efficient. And with that, we are also able to bring down the inventory managing cost as well. So this is how it benefits the other personas. So then the last point talks about better management by different users. So imagine that there is a global company which is acquiring a lot of smaller companies. Now, each of these smaller companies come with their own CRM system, their own ERP system. So with Salesforce, what we do is we consolidate all the different CRM systems into a single Salesforce application. So with that, what happens is that the management will be able to view data across all the different business groups. So sales data like opportunities, quotes, contracts will be visible to them across the different business groups that they see. So now this Salesforce system is integrated with the respective ERP systems, so which would fetch their data, and this would help the management team to identify the trends, the growth areas, and it will help them in order to take better informed decisions as well. So this is how it will help the management team as well. So this is what we wanted to cover, that how do we achieve more as a part of this seamless integration. I hope we were able to clarify all your thoughts, all your requirements up to a certain level.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chiranjeev. Please use Q&A for the question and answers, not the chat. I think I misspoke. So Chiranjeev, for this, if you can help audience to understand what are some top use cases you have encountered?
Right. So some of the top use cases that we have seen are around orders, contracts, codes that have to be integrated, which is part of the digitization process that many of the companies are looking forward right now. So since they are setting in legacy CRM systems, their own homegrown CRM systems, things like order, codes, and contracts are frequently coming. And I would like to highlight that.
Correct. And if I want to add, I think while Chiranjeev covered most of the sales, but this doesn't limit to sales. You also go into service where you bring field service. That's another big area for integration where the field service agent has to be directly connected to what is in ERP, correct? Where they're putting parts orders or getting the real-time warranty information and stuff like that. So yes, I think this is now a part and parcel of any Salesforce implementation. The days of just doing Salesforce in a siloed implementation of CRM are pretty much over. We have to integrate with the core system, so then the business actually becomes digitized, and that is, I think, very core need of today's when you want to take the speed when running your business. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes,
Ravi. Thank you, Chiranjeev.
thank you. So now we'll move on to the next slide. And how do we make integration happen? So based on our experience, we have highlighted some key points over here. Again, we will keep it very functional. We'll not go into the technical depths so that we'll be able to understand that what happens during this entire integration journey. So the first point here is we'll have to identify and prioritize the integration needs. So we looked at that use case that the company wanted to integrate codes. The code was their need. So similarly, order integration can also be the need. And this is what has to be identified first. So based on the business requirement, which addresses the customer pain points, we'll have to clearly come up with the integration needs. So once that is done, then we'll have to map the source to the target. So Salesforce data data coming into Salesforce can come from different systems, different applications, and Salesforce data can also go to different applications. So like in this use case that we see, the data has to be exchanged between Salesforce and SAP. So we'll have to map what is the source and what is the target. The third point is we'll have to define the objects clearly in both SAP and Salesforce. I'll again take the example of codes. So now if codes have to be integrated between Salesforce and SAP, then there are a lot of other dependent objects also which has to be integrated. For example, in order to create code, I need to add products, I need to add price, customer information has to be there. So all these interfaces also have to be in place when we build this integration. The next point is the master or subordinated system. Again, we'll have to clearly define this. So now code is always being generated in the CRM system, being generated by the sales rep. So the master for that would be the Salesforce system. But now talking about product related information or pricing related information, that has to sit in the ERP systems and that will maintain the master data. So we'll have to clearly call out that what data would be there in the master system and what data would be there in the subordinated system. The next point, it talks about the synchronization, whether it has to be unidirectional or bidirectional. We were talking about codes. The codes will be created in Salesforce and it will be sent to SAP, the ERP system. So it has to be unidirectional. But let's now take an example of order. So if a sales rep is able to create an order from Salesforce, then that order information has to be sent to the ERP system. So which happens in one direction. Now the ERP system has to confirm that particular order and will give a status of what is happening in the entire order lifecycle process, whether it is in progress or it has been dispatched or it has been delivered. So all those data has to come back again to Salesforce. So this is where the synchronization becomes bidirectional. So next we have real-time or batch integration. So now what does this mean? So not all the data sync has to happen in real time, else it will put a lot of load in the entire applications. For example, order information that we were just speaking about. So order information has to be in real time. What is the status of that particular order? It has to be in real time. But something like pricing and products, so that need not happen in real time. So it can happen once in a month when new products or SKUs are being added, prices are being added. So it can happen once in a month. So this is why we would refer it as a batch integration. So then we'll have to define the mechanism type, whether push or pull. So application should not pull data all the time. It would be preferred if data is being pushed. So products and pricing data that is being updated has to be pushed from ERP to the Salesforce system. So this is an efficient way of doing integration. So next is a very key point, that what do we use in order to do this integration? Shall we use middleware or shall we use native connector, point-to-point API led? So now if this particular organization that is implementing this integration, so it has a global system and there are a lot of other third-party applications as well, a lot of transactions happening every day, thousands and millions. So in such cases, a middleware is preferred, like MuleSoft or Boomi. But if the number of orders of a particular company are 5 per month and the data has to be exchanged only between a couple of systems, so in such cases, middleware is not preferred. So even point-to-point API-led connectivity can also do the job. So next is CRED, which is create, read, edit, and delete functionality. We'll have to clearly call out that what all information in which system can be created, read, edit, or deleted. For example, pricing data cannot be edited or deleted in the Salesforce system. So it can only be read. So similarly, there would be information like code, which might not be created in the ERP system. It should only happen in the Salesforce system, and then the data goes to the ERP system. And finally is one-time migration and incremental load. So once the entire integration framework is in place, a one-time data migration happens. So a lot of best practices have to be followed, which I'll cover in the next slide. So we ensure that the migration happens in the best possible way with data reconciliation mechanism. And once the data has been migrated, there should also be an ability to have incremental data loaded seamlessly as well. So this is how we make integration happen. This is just a very high level solution architecture of what we just discussed. So we can see there are two different applications, Salesforce, SAP. What are the different objects? What are the different data that has to be exchanged between both the system? Whether it is bidirectional, like account data has to be bidirectional and it has to happen in real time, this yellow color. But things like products and pricing, it need not happen in real time and it can be unidirectional. So this is how it looks like. And in order to create this particular integration, so middleware, connectors, or APIs, point to point can be used on a need basis. So before moving on to the next slide, any quick question anybody has? So Kriti, is there any question on the chat?
Yeah, there is a question. If Ravi, would you mind taking that question?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I think I saw that question. So I think the question is, what is the technology used to integrate SFDC with SAP without having to have custom APIs built in SAP and minimize the over cycle time in hours and days than weeks and months to build integration? Is there a low code, no code proprietary integration platform available from YASH with drag and drop way of building integrations quickly? And this is a fantastic question. This is exactly the purpose I think we had designed this webinar, correct? Right now, as you know, if you are a user of SAP system and you really are like tired of using these APIs, building custom APIs. So yes, we want to kind of offer you specific solutions. Again, as Chiranjeev mentioned, it depends on your complexity, how many integrations you want. You could look at either just building a standard technology tools like MuleSoft, Boomi. They have direct connectors. So what that does is, if you want to get, say, a customer data, pricing data, order data, they're already pre-built connectors. So it then truly becomes a low-code solution, right? So that becomes the way customers are able to actually now do integration in weeks. While lesser said than weeks, it still requires some kind of good amount of error framework and all other build. But yes, it is no longer a matter of taking months to do it. It can happen definitely in weeks, and you can use those technology. But in case if you don't want to invest in those technology and you have a handful of integrations to be done and you don't want to do a lot of custom APIs, that is one of the tool we did mention in the beginning and we will cover in the later. We have a small connector kind of platform. It's not truly like a drag and drop, but it has capability to read metadata on both sides, so that when the developer works on it, they get easier to code because nobody then manually going through the entire data structure on the source and target. And that's the way we kind of get some kind of acceleration in the whole implementation process. And that is the case in which you are not buying a tool. If you can invest in products like Boomi, MuleSoft, even SAP PI, that is another product SAP customers use, which can be used to integrate. So that's the way I see it. I hope I answered it.
Thank you, Ravi. Chiranjeev, if I may ask you one question, what are the typical challenges during the integration? If you have time, if not, then we can take this question in the end.
Yeah, so I can quickly take that. So talking about typical challenges, this especially happens around the data migration part. A lot of data complexities is being involved, so that there are different data types, okay, which has to be synced between both the system, and that results in error and redundant data and incorrect data. So which becomes difficult once the data is within Salesforce system. So this is one of the key challenges that we have seen.
Thank you, Chiranjeev.
Yeah.
I think this is the time to go to the best practices. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kriti. So now we'll talk about some of the best practices that we follow in our projects. So the first one is we'll have to clearly define the scope as per the integration need, and we'll have to define a proper architecture for data integration. So this is exactly what we just covered in the previous slide. So we'll have to define the integration need first. What is their pain points? What has to be integrated? Like which codes have to be integrated. After that, we'll have to clearly define the systems from which data has to move, from which system data has to move to which system. So after that, clearly define the objects, do proper mapping, ensure that whether it has to happen through middleware or native connectors or API integration, and finally with the data migration in process. So we'll have to clearly call this out. So we have step-by-step process involved at every stage. So next is clean all the data for seamless management, adjustment as per the need. So one integration framework is ready. So the data has to be moved seamlessly. And this is where a lot of issues happen. So there is a lot of duplicate data, a lot of redundant data, and data that is not needed. So we'll have to clearly identify those data, get it filtered before we move that information to Salesforce. Because if all those information, those improper, unstructured information moves to Salesforce, then it will really become tough, and it will be a heavy cost on the overall project, and it will increase the complexity as well. We'll have to ensure that the data is clean. Then is proper functional data mapping. So as we saw in the previous slide as well, so we'll have to clearly define the objects, and the proper mapping has to be done. So customer information in the Salesforce system has to be mapped correctly in the ERP system as well. But if we miss this, if the data types is not in sync, it is not matching, then that will throw a lot of error. And I can give an example. We can talk about a time field. Let's say the code process which we have has a date field, and that particular date field has a data type. And although SAP also has a data type field, but date field. But if the data type is not matching, then the date information will not sync properly. So the code will not have the right date on which it has to be closed. So this is why we have options like middleware also. So in order to handle data type issues, if it is not possible through the standard way, we can always use middlewares like MuleSoft to transform that data and to send that data to Salesforce or from Salesforce to ERP. So middleware, as we discussed in a couple of slides back, why do we have to use middleware? If it is a global organization, a lot of third-party applications, a lot of transactions are happening, data transformation has to be done due to incorrect data types. This is where we would recommend a middleware. And native connectors can be used for some of the applications. For example, if I only have to integrate Outlook, I want to see emails in the Salesforce application. I need not go for a middleware there. I can use the standard native connectors available. Then the last point is effective data reconciliation during data migration. So a very complex process, and a lot of challenges happens, especially around the data migration process, how data is being loaded, whether we have the right data within Salesforce once the migration happens, and going into the future when incremental loads happens, whether the right data is being updated, created, deleted or not. So we have a effective data reconciliation process as a part of our best practice. So this is what we wanted to cover as a part of best practice. Any other point if you want to add, Ravi?
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered. I think already in my earlier point, I talked about it. So one thing for me is, I think the second point you mentioned, the seamless data management. That's where your rules come into picture. There has to be transformational rules, especially related to deduplication, because you don't want duplicate data coming in either of the system. And sometimes if you have a dual sync, like both way sync, it's a pretty complex scenario, because if you don't manage that well, you may end up like re-updating the data or cleaning up the old data with the previous value. So that kind of synchronization problem can happen. So it's very extremely important that that piece, if you especially have a two-way sync kind of integrations, I think you have to know who is the master, because if you don't do that define that well, then you may not know who is the master, which means which is the version of truth. So please use that aspect in your design, right? So that you always know where is the master and which is the latest date. Yeah, sounds good. Actually.
Yes, thanks, Ravi. So now we'll move on to the next section. So we will be sharing a couple of success stories that we have already implemented and how it has helped our customer achieve great business outcomes. So the first success story is about a global chemical company, and this is the same use case which we started this particular webinar with. So the customer wanted their sales reps to create codes in the Salesforce system with the right data being available, like product data, price data, everything has to be available within Salesforce. And then the codes has to be created as soon as possible, which will lead to closing opportunities as soon as possible. and then the code details have to be sent to the ERP system. So earlier their pain point was none of this was happening in the Salesforce system. Every time this sales rep had to log into the Salesforce system as well as the ERP application in order to generate a particular code and win opportunities. So we were able to achieve this using SAP CPI as a middleware, and SAP S/4HANA was the ERP that the customer has. So at the end, we were able to reduce the opportunity closure time by up to 80%, as the entire manual process of entering the pricing data was eliminated, as we have discussed. So now the sales reps don't have to enter pricing data manually. So this leads to creating codes faster, and the overall time for closing opportunities also became very less. So the second point is faster code creation led to an increase in efficiency and productivity by 70% for the sales reps. So now closing an opportunity used to take days. So now with this solution, in days, they can close more number of opportunities. So this is how we help this particular customer achieve these business outcomes. So Ravi, would you like to add anything here?
Yeah, I think you covered, but one aspect which is anyway the indirect is what was achieved here is the error process. Because if you see pricing is very sensitive information, correct? Pricing changes. So if the salespeople do not know a change in time, there's a potential issue with codes going with wrong pricing, correct? And that is very critical. And some business are very sensitive to pricing, and their pricing can change even dynamically. I'm not saying pricing changes every day, but if that is the issue, this kind of synchronize extremely critical. And I think in this particular case, these guys were used to manage a lot of big Excel sheets where pricing information was locally stored, because being a sensitive information, it was not like put in different databases. So it was given to salespeople. So with this, at least they have taken the redundancy out. Now dependency is out. The salespeople don't have to manage their own Excel sheets with pricing from the management as an approved pricing. The another aspect is in addition to standard pricing, there's account specific pricing. There's a preferred pricing, correct? And that is dynamic. You have to offer discounts on that. So nobody wants to play around with that's a very sensitive data. So what this did is it also allowed account-based pricing directly coming into Salesforce, which means the salesperson will not have to worry about anything related to the normal pricing and the account specific pricing, but rather focus on closing the business with maybe some discount, which they can work with the management or their dealers and distributors. So rather than worrying about detailing about each product, SKU level pricing, account-based contracted pricing, they are only now focused on how to close the deal and get the discount if they need to close the deal, and focus their attention only on that, not managing Excels. And so yes, so while the overall model is it became efficient, but this is a huge pain which they went through, which is now pretty much eliminated. And that's where the beauty of integration is. I said it's not about just connecting two systems, but how you make your business people become more seamless and efficient also along with. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. So now we'll talk about the second success story. So now this is for a US-based construction company. So in the previous success story, we looked at the sales rep persona, but here we'll see that how the other users like the planning and operations teams were benefited with this integration. So they had a very simple requirement wherein they wanted to forecast the order data that was coming into the CRM systems. So by using this forecasted information, they wanted to manage their inventory cost, which went really high during the COVID times. So I will talk about the flow first. So here all the order data were pushed from the QAD system into the Salesforce systems. So once the order information and other relevant information were captured in the Salesforce system, then using algorithms, different types of reports were generated. So the first report was the sales forecast reports by the plants and by customers. And there were a few other reports like adoption report, forecast accuracy report, allocation report, and forecast input indicator reports. So using these reports, the production team, the planning team, operations team, they were able to define at what level of manufacturing has to happen over the next 12 months. So they had defined their forecasting period for a duration of 12 months. And this helped them to manufacture the right level of products at a given point of time for that particular month. And this also helped them save a lot of decrease their inventory management cost as well. So apart from benefiting the planning operations team members, it also helped the customers as well. So earlier the customer were providing inputs for forecasting through Excel sheets, which was a very cumbersome process and used to take anything in between 10 to 15 days. But right now, since the order data was being pushed to the Salesforce system, so those order information were extended to the customers through a portal. The customers now can easily view their past orders, and based on the order what they have placed for every month, they can provide inputs that what they would be anticipating in the next 12 months. So which can be used as a forecast input parameter to come up with the final forecasting report. So this really benefited the production planning team. And as you can see over here, that up to 50% increase in the forecast accuracy. The forecast accuracy was less than 20%, and which significantly increased after we automated this entire process and removed this manual process which was happening through Excel sheets. Then we were able to increase the forecast accuracy, which led to the decrease in the inventory management cost. So when we asked the customer that what is the main pain point, they said inventory management cost has really gone up and they wanted to decrease that. And this is how we benefited them. And the third is that it provided a great experience to the customers as well. Earlier, they had to enter forecast input data through Excel sheets, send that over email, but now they were able to seamlessly provide the data through a customer portal. So because order was now integrated with Salesforce, even the customer could also see the orders through a customer portal. And this gave them a very good experience, and they were able to send the forecast inputs data timely as well. So this is how we achieve these business outcomes for this particular implementation. So would request Ravi to add any other points on this particular success story.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think this is another very important project we did, I think, around last quarter. See, one thing while looking at this diagram, it looks like, oh, you're just mapping field to field and doing it. This was not a very simple integration, because when they did the forecasting, it was happening at a one level up granularity. Like they are not actually doing forecasting at, say, an SKU level. They are doing at a mini product level, like you have a pack of 6, and then that is going into a particular unit. And the forecasting was happening at one level up. So the beauty of this project, or rather the complexity of the project, we had to actually come up with our own logic and complex algorithm to figure out, if I need this many built items, how many line items it would translate into. So that was the complexity or difficulty in arriving this kind of forecasting. Then based on that, we were actually able to get the historical data from orders, the opportunities in pipeline, correct, the contractual orders, and then come up with a clean forecast on what the production team should be building month on month, right? So yes, it's a very, very complex, and I'm sure many of the manufacturers face this. Another thing actually was the simplicity in which the data was collected, because earlier they had to call every customer, and this is not for like retail customer, this is like B2B model where you only go to your top 20 or 30 customers, which comprise your 80% of your revenue. So they used to go to account managers of those customers where they manually used to take this forecast once a month. Now what happened is it becomes just a portal. So which means all of their top customer actually have their login portal where they actually just change the forecast. Otherwise, the default forecast is already available to them based on their past purchase behavior. So they don't have to submit again and again a lot of detail. They just have to tweak. Maybe if this is May, they have to just tweak the June forecast. They can do it, and instantly that data is now available to you without any follow-ups. And then that data is basically revisited here in this forecasting model, and then it is gone to the management. It goes through a simultaneous approval. So everything is seamless. No Excel sheets, nobody following, chasing, emails are gone. And I think all flows in back into the production line. So yeah, so I think this is extremely value use case. I'm sure companies or enterprises are struggling with forecasting because of the demand situation. A solution like this can really be a great way to kind of level up the issue you could be facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. I think this is like music to my ears. Coming from a manufacturing industry, I feel that there is a big pain point in these kind of situations, which could be resolved by the technology. So I think now this is the time we go into our tool, ERP connector. So Chiranjeev, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Preeti. So now I'll cover this tool, which is called as ERP connector. So based on our experience, the work that we have done with our customers, so we have come up with this tool and we have identified that what are the different interfaces that has to be integrated in order to achieve seamless integrations. So you can see we have clearly called out all those interfaces at the bottom. And then there are different ways to achieve this. So whether it has to be done through a middleware like MuleSoft, or it has to be done point to point. And when we talk about point to point, also there are different mechanisms like integration with SAP ECC would be different than integration with SAP S/4HANA. So we have all those informations in place. What are the steps that needs to be followed? We use that as an accelerator so that we can expedite the project once the engagement begins. So we have achieved it using two different ways that you see here. So using point-to-point integration and using MuleSoft middleware, we have achieved this particular ERP tool. So the next screen talks about the informations that already have been synced using this particular connector. So the moment we get into a project, we can leverage this entire mechanism in order to finish this integration. So the customer data sync is happening between Salesforce and ERP system. This is a screenshot of that. And once the customer data has been updated, and now if the customer wants to purchase a particular product, then product related information along with the pricing data is also in sync. And we can search for products, view that updated price. And once we view the price, we can go ahead and add that product to that particular cart, and we can review that particular cart and go ahead and place an order. So the entire information of that particular order can be tracked real time, whether the order, when the order has been placed, what is the credit check that has happened, has it been confirmed, dispatched. Similarly, other status can also be followed for that particular order. And the last screenshot shows about all the orders that I have placed and what is the real-time status of that particular orders. So this tool has all the interfaces built, what is needed in order to carry out seamless integration as soon as possible. And this is how we leverage when we get into a project for our customers. So thank you. So this is what we wanted to share as a part of the ERP tool. Now I'll hand it over back to Ravi.
Yeah, so rather I would say,
Chiranjeev. I think, yeah, I just wanted to say that if there are any questions, if you have any questions which are not right now, you don't have a right question to ask right now, but you want to reach out to us later, please feel free to reach to either info@yash.com, or our email IDs are there, firstname.lastname@yash.com. And thank you, Chiranjeev and Ravi. I think this is the time where we are about to coming to an end. For some concluding remarks and the offer which we have been holding you for, I would like Ravi to please reveal that and excite everybody. So, we can take it further.
Sure, thanks, Kriti. Yeah, I was waiting for this moment, correct? So just to summarize, yes, sure, we are now very extremely focused around Salesforce practice, and the best thing what we offer is our focus. Our core focus is on integration, because YASH has been a big player in manufacturing space, working with a lot of customers with SAP. So we thought the best value for our clients would be, can we help ease that pain related to integration? And that's why a lot of emphasis has been gone into bring our domain specialists, especially with the product knowledge and the manufacturing domain knowledge and the technology knowledge on integration to build a tool like this. So from a offer perspective, we think if you are in a journey where either you are looking to integrate something, or you may have started somewhere, but you are not clear what can happen, any kind of a mini discovery, happy to kind of share that. We can do a very complimentary discovery program for you, like it could be 2 to 4 weeks. It will be absolutely no charge. We're happy to bring these tools right into your world, where we can actually do that quick assessment around what kind of integration need you have. Maybe you are trying to get the product or order or pricing, any of the data. So our tools can at least help you identify how quickly it can be done. It is not to say that the implementation is going to become free, but the ability to assess how your environment is, because in many cases we have even gone to a mainframe environment too, correct? Where it has to be exported into some kind of a format or a CSV, and then we can pick it from there. So yes, so all those assessment, because if one of the question earlier was, it's a very complex and it takes weeks and months. So yes, that's where we are here to help you. And we have done it for different clients with different ERPs. QAD was one of the ERP. We have done it for Oracle. We have been doing all the time with SAP. And in terms of integration tools, we have worked on Delbomi, SAP PI, as well as MuleSoft, correct? And then obviously the conventional API integration, which is point-to-point. So yes, this is extremely critical aspects of enterprise today, and we do believe many of you are either in the process of doing it or would already done it, and you want to go further into so that all your integrations are seamless. I think it's the best opportunity, we think, and happy to engage with you. We can, the information is out there. You can kind of send any follow-ups on this, post this call, and happy to come and do a short, quick discussion on how we can help you assist. Thank you, Kriti.
And you said you're going to do this complimentary.
Yes, absolutely. And that we have to do for our audience, correct? They came all the way for the call. So happy to give a response on that front.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ravi. That's very generous of you. If I think we are about to end this now, I mean, we are coming to an end. I hope everybody joined today, found this fruitful. And this webinar, which was Salesforce automation with ERP integration, maximizing operational efficiencies in the manufacturing industry, was fruitful for you today. And if you have any other questions, you know where to find us. Please feel free to connect us on LinkedIn. Our email IDs are there. As I spoke before, it's firstname.lastname@yash.com. You can also reach out to info@yash.com. With that, thank you so much, everybody, for joining this webinar. And we hope to see you again in the future and do more series of webinar on Salesforce side. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.